So today we will see the introduction of .NET framework. We'll look the different types of application architectures. We will identify the components of the .NET framework, advantages of .NET framework, and we will also see what is integrated development environment, which is .NET IDE, and the list of visual features of the Visual Basics .NET. So here we start off with the type of the applications architecture. The functions performed by an application can be divided into three applications. Any applications consist of the three dimensions, which we call the tier the applications, which consist of the different functionalities in which its internal functionality and its outer functionality is maximized or optimized and can be seen through a tier architecture or a block diagram. And the upper layer consists of the user services interface. So the first, here we see the user services provides the interactive user interface. Therefore, it is also called presentation layer. The first layer of application architecture is the user services, means the framework or the outlayer application through which the user interact with the system. It's called the presentation layer, means the front end layer of the applications. In what way the end user can optimize or can use the applications. Then it comes the business services, ensure the backend services, means the internal part or the apps non-abstracted part of the applications. And then it comes the data services, data functionalities, and how the data inside the application is get manipulated. So these are the three layers based on the models of the architecture of the application development. So what are those architectures? First layer is the single tier architecture. In single tier architecture, the single executable file handlers all functions relating the users, business and data services layer. The single tier architecture consists of the three monolithic applications, means the user services, means the user interact with the services, and in between it comes the business layer, business services, and third is the data services. The single tier application are also called the monolithic applications. The next, introducing .NET into the two-tier architecture. The two-tier architecture is divided into the two platform. One is a client and one is server. Clients implements the user interface and server stores data. So as we know very well, the functionality or the task of the server is to store the database of the application, and the client provides the interface of the between the user and the server. So we can say the client play a role as a mediator between the database server or the end user. So in two-tier architecture, the business services may be implemented in one of the following ways: by using the flat client, by using the fat server, by dividing the business services between the user services and the data services. So this is the diagram which shows the fat client and the fat server between the user business logic and the data tier. Next here comes the three-tier architecture. In the three-tier architecture, all the services which is provided by the three-tier architecture reside separately in in all others we can see there is a dependency or interdependencies between all the layers, means user layer, business layer, and data services layer. But in three-tier architecture, these modules are independent of each other, means they reside separately in the layer or architecture, either on the same machine or the different machine. The user interface interact with the business logic. The user interface task is to interact with the business logic to provide the services to the end user, and the business logic validates the data sent by the data services, that what information it interfaces is going to forward to the user layer. So the front end only interact with the business logic, which in turn interact with the database. So here we can see the connectivity or the cycle. Firstly, the user services send a request to the business layer, and business services send a request to the data layer, and data retrieves the data and send it back to the business services, and then it send it back to the user services. This diagram purely shows this functionality of the three-tier architecture. Next come the n-tier architecture. So an n-tier application architecture is not restricted to a specific number of layers. So there are three types of layer. N कहने का मतलब ये हुआ n depicts the n number or the infinitive tier architecture. So it does not have any specific of number of layer, that one layer, two layer, three layer. It has the number of or several layer. It consists of 50 layers as well. So it has the multiple layers handling the business services. The advantage of n-tier architecture is extensibility, resilience to change, maintainability, and scalability. Extensibility means that it provides a dimension that we can extend the architecture. Suppose we have to implement, we are working on an application, but we have to increase the functionality of the applications, and our internal data is only of 3 layers, but those 3 layers is not sufficient, so we are planning to move to from application to cloud. So thereby we can extend, like if we have the 3 layers of data architecture, then we can extend it to the 6 or 7. So it provides the extensionability module as well. And resilience to change means we can change its internal architecture or interface. Maintainability it is very easy to maintainable, or scalability we can scale its dimensions, that on what point of time it is measurable to the services it is providing. So this application are self-organizable requirements. There, the most modern enterprise application are based on the n application architecture. So if you see in the application which is used in the software firms, which are very complex in nature, example, a .NET framework, it follows the n-tier architecture philosophy, because the functionality needed to be so flexible, and it should be provided the modification as well, and should be extensible at the same time. So here we come, the Microsoft has taken an initiative to introduce the .NET framework, which consists of the n-tier architecture application framework. So the .NET initiative offers a complete suite of developing and deploying the applications. It's a complete framework through which we can develop or complete our software development or application procedure. What are the .NET products? Microsoft has introduced Visual Studio .NET IDE. IDE means Integrated Development Environment. Integrated Development Environment is a kind of environment of software development which is very flexible, comprehensive, and which provides the integrated source or integrated environment of software development, in which you can edit your source code, you can optimize the tools, or you can automate the tools. At the same time, you can also process your debugging process. Means एक ऐसा single framework in which तुम अगर किसी application को develop कर रहे हो, तो application को develop करने के लिए you can optimize your source code editor तो है ही वहाँ पे, वो तो होगा ही. But जैसे अब एक एग्जांपल लेते हैं टर्बो सी या फिर किसी और फ्रेमवर्क का, लाइक PHP डेवलपर, उसमें यू डोंट हैव ऑप्शन टू डीबगिंग और ऑटोमेट थिंग्स, बट इन Microsoft.NET you can execute or test your code, you can optimize your code according to your need, or you can debug your code as well. So this is all over philosophy of integrated development environment, which is a tool for developing the .NET applications. So Visual.NET follows the .NET. It may ask in the examination that please elaborate or write a short note on .NET IDE. Then you will have to explain its application in Visual.NET, or what is integrated development environment is. .NET programming languages like Visual Basics, Visual C Hash, or Visual C++, all the .NET products are extensible as I have said, extensible markup language XML for describing and exchanging the data between applications. So the .NET framework, it is a foundation of developing, designing, and deploying applications. It exists as a layer between the .NET application and the underlying operating system. It is also a platform independent kind of a software. But it does not have a boundaries of the platform or the operating system. It is portable at the same time because it follows the object oriented concept. Means from one platform of operating system you can port it to the other operating system as well. Is it does not relies on any hierarchy that follows by the operating system or the source code of the platform. Means if you are executing any kind of a application on a Windows framework, then you can port it to the Linux or Unix as well. But there is nothing like we can say the change in the functionality or the overall executable quality of the software. Next we have the components of .NET framework. So the .NET framework consists of the three components, which is the common language runtime. It has also the concept of CLA, means common immediate language. Common immediate language means the source code you are executing in the Visual.NET or any programming language, it converts your code into the machine understandable code, machine language. So machine language can be taken as the CLI, means common language intermediate. The .NET framework base classes and the user interface of the .NET framework. So what is common language runtime? The common language runtime is the environment where all the program of the .NET runs. It is a kind of a platform or the architecture of the software of the .NET procedure in which the .NET programs run. The CLR can host the variety of languages and offer a common set of tools across all the languages. Presently, the primary language of CLR is the Visual Basics and the C++. The application created by the languages that target the CLR this is the diagram of we can see it's given the common language runtime. This is the all over the process, means I give you one example. Suppose you are executing a code on Visual Basics .NET programming. So the moment you click run the program or execute the program or compile the program, so what are all the internal architecture procedure takes place inside the application to execute your program and to show you the output. This common language runtime is responsible for that only. What procedure it follows? Suppose you are writing a VB.NET and programming, then it get into the VB.NET compiler. It interact between the compiler system, means compiler construction. What are the construction of the compiler is made in the inside the Visual Basic .NET, and it's then intermediate to the MSIL, means the common intermediate language, means they here we can see that translating is done. You are writing a program in high level language and compiler is converting or interpreting we can say the compiler is translating your high level programming language into the machine understandable programming language. So in this layer we can see the translation is done, Microsoft intermediate language, and then it comes to common language runtime, just in which part the native code is generated and so user result. So here we can see block diagram of the common language runtime. You are writing the source code. In exam it is also asked that give a brief note on a CLR and with a proper diagram. So the moment you are explaining common language runtime, you need to explain its diagram as well, because if you do not explain the diagram, your half of the marks get deducted. then you are writing the source code, and it gives the transfer the information to the compiler, and compiler execute your information, and then it transfer to the class loader. Class loader का means क्या होता है? It's a part of a compiler construction in which we can say the CVV is created, means whatever the language or whatever the declarations you are making in your programming, it fetch the details or the information out of your source code and start generating a kind of a binary result. So this is the use of the class loader. And the JIT compiler translates your source code, and the CLR functionality start to execute your then it comes to the security check also. We can also say the .NET framework is extensible in the framework of security. .NET also facilitate a number of security measures as well, means your data whatever you are writing in the program cannot be leaked. Next come the features provided by the CLR. So it has the automatic memory management. Automatic memory management means it does not need to declare each and every array. It is an interpreted language. So the moment you install the VB.NET application in your system, it in computer architecture you have studied the memory management, or in operating system there is a segment in which the application get installed, and it occupies a specific place in the memory segment, and automatic it generates a kind of a assembly code that whatever the signal is going to be sent to the ISR of the computer architecture system, it automatically transforms that what information is going get to be fetched or what information is going to be achieved. Next is come the language interpolability. Language interpolability means it is independent of the all language boundaries. It's not a low level programming language. It can understand the syntax or the programming constructs you made. It has a security management and the type safety programming languages. Next comes the .NET framework base classes or the .NET class framework. So the .NET class framework class library is built in the object-oriented nature, means the object-oriented concept is followed by the .NET programming framework and provide the classes that can be used in the code to accomplish a range of common programming tasks such as string management, data collection, data connectivity, and file access. In .NET framework, there is an object-oriented concept that facilitate a class can be made in the source code, which functionality can be ranges such as string management. Means string, you might have studied data types in the VB.NET. So it facilitate a kind of functions and constants. So you do not need to declare means we can say the compiler construction of VB.NET framework are made in such a way that it can manage the string on the basis of it get executed by the source code. And data collection and database connectivity. Database connectivity means you write a code that you are connecting your program code with the database that you have created inside. Suppose you have creating a database of a student record, and you have to execute that record in your programming of VB.NET. You have to create a kind of a application form by executing .database. So you can also write a program in such a way that you can connect the database that is stored in the memory segment. Next comes to the class library framework of the .NET. Then it has a comprises a namespace and which is connected with the assemblies. Namespaces कहने का मतलब क्या है कि what are all the constants and variable you use, and what are which are contained within assemblies. So I think in the features of VB.NET you might have heard that it is an assembled programming language, means it is an interpreted programming language. So .NET framework base classes continued. Here we can say the class library include the namespace, help you to create logical group of related classes and interfaces that can be used in any language targeting the .NET framework. Whether it is VB.NET or ASP.NET or the She Has .NET, whatever the .NET framework you are using, you can execute the same kind of class library and namespaces in all the programming languages. And assembly, it is not so much important, so we move to the next topic. User and program interfaces is one of the important of .NET framework. Means the Windows forms, web forms, and the console applications. So basically, .NET provides the three types of user interfaces. Windows forms, they are used in the Windows-based application. Suppose you are developing any system for the Windows-based application, so you can use the Windows form application framework using the VB.NET. Web forms and console application, they are used to create the character-based console application that can be executed from command line. And .NET also provides one program interface, means the web services it follows, they are used to communicate with the remote components. Remote components कहने का मतलब क्या है कि what of the components we have studied in the IDE, those all the components can be easily executed or manipulated within the class library. Next come what are the advantages of .NET framework. So it is a consistent programming model, multi-programming application, multi-language integration, these things I have already explained you, that it provides automatic resource management. Means resource कहने का मतलब क्या है कि your memory, your files, the data you save, all these resources of your system can be easily managed or automatically managed by the .NET framework, or it is easy for the deployment. Means you can execute or exit to your program very easily. Next come this introduction of the Visual Basics or Visual Studio .NET integrated. So Visual Studio .NET is an integrated development environment as I have told, with which provide you a common interface of developing various kind of projects for .NET framework, provide you a centralized location for designing the user interface. Means under the same umbrella you can do your source code operations, you can do your designing operation, you can execute your database connectivity operations, you can also do optimizing or automating your things, and you can also debug your program. So we can say it's a single umbrella which provides the all kind of functionality under one, and centralized location for designing the user interface or the application, writing code, compiling and debugging the application. And it is available to all the programmer who use the languages in the Visual Studio .NET suite. So the components of the Visual Studio .NET IDE are projects and solution, user interface elements, and navigational features of the visual elements. Navigational features कहने का मतलब क्या है कि you can navigate throughout the windows. Means suppose in you are using the Microsoft Visual Basics .NET and you have to navigate from one window to another window. So in that navigating or fetching to the other switching to the other bar or the windows, you will not face much of the complexity in navigating bars. So what are the projects and solutions of the Visual.NET provides? It provides an application can be made up of the more items such as files and folders. You can organize your file and folder efficiently using Visual.NET Studios, and it allows you to manage, build and debug the items that make up an applications. You can also save your files in .exe, means executable file, or the dynamic link library in DLL form also, and acts as a container for one of the project, allows you to work on the multiple projects within the same instance of a time. So this is all the, we can say, the features of the .NET framework. Next come what are the projects and solution this following diagram depicts a solution containing multiple projects. This is a diagram which gives you an overall idea that how the project and solution task management is done using the Visual Basics .NET framework. Here we can see the project 1 and 2 compiled with the project item 1 and project item 2, and you can also attach the miscellaneous files, so there is no any harm that you can executing the multiple files at the same time. Now it comes that how do we create a project in Visual Studio. So this is a window which look like this. You can create a new project in the Visual Studio.net by clicking the new project button in the Visual Studio. You can start your page, and by clicking the file you can navigate to the project options. Then how do we create a Visual Studio? In a new project dialog box, there is a dialog box which is written over there when you will see visualbasics.net new project. In that, the project time pane displays the various categories of a project that you can create. After you select a project type, the templates is given, means what are the look or what are the visualization framework that you want to use for your project. User interface elements of visual.net, it looks like in such a way. Then user interface elements of a visual .net IDE is in such a way that you can manipulate all the interfaces in such a way that each and every window, it can be navigated very easily. So it is written over here, in addition to a standard interface elements found in the Windows environment, such as the menu bar, toolbar, Visual Studio.net IDE contains such elements. Start page, Windows Forms Designer. Here we can optimize, or you can you can manipulate the kind of form that you want to use with. If it is a, whether it is a Windows form or the project form or kind of forms that you found in .NET framework, or the Solution Explorer window, Properties window, Toolbox, Task List window, Server Explorer, Dynamic Help, and the Code and the Text Editor window. So this is the start page looks like in such a way. When you start the Visual Studio.net by selecting the Start Programs, Microsoft Visual Studio and Microsoft Studio.net 7.0, it displays the studio in such a way. Then how do we create the Windows form? Allows you to design the user interface for an application, allows you to add controls to a form. What are the controls that you want to add? That controls means whether it is in a readable format or editable format. Means the other who are accessing your files, they can you only see or edit your form as well. And it also provides you a rapid development solution for your applications. Then it comes the Solution Explorer window. It lists down the solution name, that what kind of solution you want to execute on your project, the project name, and all the forms and the module that are used in the project. And it also enables you to open a particular file existing in a project by double clicking in a file in the Solution Explorer window. Then what are the Properties window? It displays the property that are associated with an object. It is a very shorted category and a very easily available toolbar for the Properties window. Allows you to switch between the sort orders by category or by the alphabets. You can sort your files on the basis of the category, whether you sort it on the basis of the date, whether you sort it on the basis of the category or by the alphabets. Then we comes to the toolbox options. A toolbox displays the tabs, data component, Windows Forms, and the clipboard ring. Then lastly comes the output window. It displays the messages for the status of the various provided in the Visual Studio and can be opened by selecting view, other windows, output, or by the CTRL help. This is the short notation for viewing the output in the Visual Basics.net. Then last come the task list window. Here the task that you are optimizing, you can have access to in one nutshell. Then what are the server handy server you can want to use? You can use with the Server Explorer window. Then here comes the Dynamic Help window. Dynamic Help window provide you the context sensitive help. Like if you are executing a kind of project but you are having any working issues over there, then you can switch to this window and you can seek help related to the every component you are using. Then we come the class window. It displays the class methods and the properties associated with the particular file. Then the code and text window. Here you can execute or edit your code. What are the navigational features in Visual Studio? Docking, tab navigations and auto hide. Docking कहने का मतलब क्या है कि there is a several kind of format which is given. You can arrange your files. And tabbed navigation, you can navigate through one window to another very easily. And auto hide, if you switch to the one window, then the previously used window will be hidden itself. This is how the docking helps there. This feature allows you to place a window against any edges of the parent window. You can also make the window dockable by right clicking the title bar of the window and checking the dockable option from the shortcut menu. Dockable means that you need to navigate through the several window at the same time. Suppose you are working on the forms, and along with you are working on the code, so you can open both the file at the same time. Then the tabbed navigation comes, and then auto hide option comes. These are very easy things. You can read it at your own and understand these things with the help of the .NET software. Then here comes the introducing Visual Basics.NET. So the key feature introduced in Visual Basics are it provides the inheritance, constructor, overloading, overriding. There are a number of object-oriented parameters that we can implement in Visual Basics.NET. What are inheritance and what are all those things? We can study in the OOPS concept, and we have the overloading and overriding concept as well. Multi-threading means, suppose you are creating a single thread in your program, and you can attach the several other threads of the components using a same program. Here are some basic summary given. You can get access to it to understand whatever I have explained in a NAP. All things is given in very short note. You can also make a note of these things or remember these things which to be asked in your examinations. What is CLR given over here, the framework is given over here, and lecture of architecture is given over here. फिर .NET framework के बारे में दिया हुआ है, library, फिर console applications क्या होता है, सारा कुछ दिया हुआ है. You can get access to it. Some of the components of Visual Basic Studio.NET are as follows. So again, you can study these things. So this is a whole about the introduction of the Visual Basics.NET.